Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So this morning I found out about Donald Trump's statements about the NFL and about players taking a knee during the games. And I want to take time right now to provide my commentary. First, I want to tell you what he said, and then I'm going to provide my analysis and my commentary on this issue. So this is what Donald Trump said. He said, "Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when someone disrespects our flag, say, 'Get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out. He's fired, fired.'" And then he went on to talk about how these types of protests, when people take a knee at the games, they are disrespecting our heritage. He said it's a total disrespect of our heritage, a total disrespect of everything we stand for. Now, he gave this speech in Alabama, and that's significant. And I'm going to go into why that is significant. It is significant because that is a southern state. It's a state that was a part of the Confederacy, a state with a long history of racism against black people, a state that still has issues of racism in that state. And essentially what he was doing is he was using that speech as an opportunity to put black men in their place before a white Southern audience. That's what you have to understand. Most of these NFL players are black. Most of the people who are taking a knee during these games, these football games, are black people. So he is essentially disrespecting these black people, trying to put them in their place before this white Southern audience. And that is not a coincidence. We know the history of Alabama. Its history of segregation, its history of slavery, its history of oppressing black people. We know that history. And some people are still tied to that history. Some people still possess that Confederate mindset down there. Many of Trump's supporters still have that Confederate racist mindset. And he is deliberately pandering to that audience by disrespecting black men, by calling them sons of bitches, by talking about how they should be fired and all this and that. So that's just sickening, man. And then I'm just glad that the players responded in a bold and courageous way by more people participating in this protest against police brutality or protest against Donald Trump. Out of a protest against Donald Trump, more players decided to take a knee during the games. You have the Baltimore Ravens take a knee. Many of the players on the Baltimore Ravens take a knee. You had many of the players from the Jaguars take a knee. And you had some who did not take a knee, but instead they linked arms in protest against Donald Trump. And I think that is the right thing to do. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers, their coach decided that they are not going to even go on the field during the playing of the national anthem out of protest against Donald Trump. So his ridiculous, disrespectful statements have the opposite effect. They have encouraged more people to participate in this protest. And I'm glad that people have stood up to this man. He's supposed to be the president of the United States. A president is supposed to be about national unity, unifying the American people, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of color, regardless of what region of the country they're from. That's what a real president is supposed to be about. He's supposed to be about promoting the interests of the American people as a collective and not about pandering to narrow-minded, bigoted groups of people. And that's all that Donald Trump is doing, pandering to these white races because that is who he is. Instead of being a uniter-in-chief, he's a divider-in-chief. This man talked about a total disrespect of our heritage. What heritage is he talking about? Because when I look at American history, I see a heritage of enslavement, a heritage where African Americans were enslaved for hundreds of years. That's the heritage that I see. When I look at the American heritage, I see a heritage of Jim Crow where black people were lynched, bombed, killed, burned by groups like the KKK. Groups that you, Donald Trump, defend and insulate and come up with excuses for. Groups that support you, Donald Trump. When you talk about American heritage, total disrespect of American heritage, are you talking about that heritage of police brutality? This heritage that has continued from the day that the police were created until today's times, where police kill black people with impunity, kill black people, and they are not brought to trial many times. And when they are brought to trial, there is no justice. They walk. They just walk. We know about that recent case that took place in St. Louis where another cop got away with killing another black man. Is that the heritage that you speak of when you talk about disrespect of our heritage? Well, that kind of heritage doesn't deserve any kind of respect. That heritage doesn't deserve our respect. And if you love America and what it stands for so much, you will respect people's right to freedom of speech. Now, this man has a long history of sexism. He's made all kinds of sexist comments about women. He's talked about grabbing women by their vaginas. He's talked about sexually assaulting women. This man has disrespected and attacked women, talking about different journalists who have the audacity to simply ask him the tough questions that he should be asked. So he has a history of disrespecting black women, period. And black women in particular right here, because most of these people who are protesting are black men. And he's saying that they are sons of bitches. Saying that they are sons of bitches, disrespecting women and black women in particular. Are you going to sit around and tolerate this? This man is a disgrace. He is a national embarrassment. It is a shame that we have somebody like him in the White House. It is a shame that the American people would elect a buffoon, a sexist, a damn racist like this man, Donald Trump. Now, this man has all this stuff to say about a man or groups of people deciding to take a knee. He's so outraged about that. He has so much to say about that. But when it came to those white supremacists in Charlottesville, this man had very little to say. And when he did say something, it was the wrong thing. He basically made excuses for white supremacists, violent white supremacists that killed a woman, violent white supremacists that hurt people by fighting with people. He made excuses for these people. He tried to say that they were morally equivalent to those who were protesting against white supremacy, morally equivalent to those who were protesting against racism. This man said that they were some very fine people that participated in those demonstrations, those neo-Nazi demonstrations, those KKK demonstrations, those white supremacist demonstrations. He said they were very fine people. But when black men stand up against police brutality, they are sons of bitches. This man is a disgrace, and I'll be glad when he leaves the White House. I hope that he is impeached for what he has done. Not for this statement, but for this whole Russia investigation. And that brings me to another point. This man is unable to deal with real issues. He's unable to pass any of his laws or any of his legislative agenda and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that this man is good at is generating controversy and generating attention from the bourgeois corporate media. That's all he's good at. But when it comes to governing this country, when it comes to being a president of this country, he fails miserably. He is just trying to distract people right now with this foolishness. He has failed to pass any of his legislative agenda. So he wants to distract away from that, distract away from the fact that his effort to repeal Obamacare is going to go down in flames yet again. He wants to distract away from the crisis with North Korea, where you have a country threatening to bomb U.S. territories, a country flying bombs over one of the United States allies. He wants to distract from that. So he would rather have people talking about the N.F.L. than to talk about his role as president of the United States. He would rather people talk about the N.F.L. than to talk about that Russia investigation heating up on him. So this man is a national embarrassment. He is a disgrace. Instead of worrying about the NFL, instead of worrying about football players protesting, exercising their First Amendment rights, this man needs to be worried about governing this country. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.